Good afternoon, everybody. Anthony Aniano here from RotoBaller Radio and RotoBaller.com with your fantasy football Week 3 sleeper and value plays. Players that are maybe a little under the radar, a little less expensive, that you could utilize whether in your season-long or DFS lineups for Week 3 of the 2023 fantasy football season. Don't forget, head over to RotoBaller.com right now. Sign up for the premium package, the NFL premium package, using the promotional code ACES. Save at checkout. Already 50% off. You get an additional discount when using that promo code ACES. And take advantage of all the great tools over at RotoBaller.com, whether it's DFS or season-long format, team sync tools, lineup optimizers, waiver wire report, trade analysis, whatever you're looking for, RotoBaller.com has you covered. Like and subscribe right here to the RotoBaller YouTube channel. Tons of content coming out each day of the week. Also, download the RotoBaller app. It's free. 6 sports right there in the palm of your hand, whether you have the premium package or not. It's available for you there. Is all available right there on RotoBaller's app. So take advantage of all of that as well. All right, let's get into it. Week 3 fantasy football season. Full disclosure, recording this on Thursday night before the Thursday night Giants 49er game. Healthy players hopefully involved here. Nothing changes between now and kickoff on Sunday. And we'll start at the quarterback position. If you're worried about Joe Burrow potentially on Monday night because of the calf injury, Anthony Richardson seems to be trending to play. He was one of my waiver wire ads, and now I'm going to make him a sleeper value play. CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. On DraftKings, he's priced at $5,300, and yet he's averaging 18.6 in a DraftKings format fantasy points per game. Keep in mind, CJ Stroud has been allowed to throw the ball 91 times in 2 games. Houston is not slow playing him in. He's thrown it over 45 times in both games so far this year. And he's got Nico Collins, who's quickly becoming one of the elite wide receivers in the league. Tank Dell has been elevated, the rookie. He was targeted 10 times last week. He's been declared healthy and ready to go. So that wide receiver group in Houston is young and talented to pair up with CJ Stroud. Jacksonville Jaguars are allowing 264 passing yards per game. They're allowing 25.7 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks, with 3 passing touchdowns allowed in 2 games. That makes Jacksonville 29th in the league in allowing fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. This is an interesting matchup for Stroud. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes, but Houston's going to let him air it out, and Jacksonville is allowing quarterbacks to throw for yardage and touchdowns through their first 2 matchups. At the running back position, Week 3 is a big one for the New Orleans Saints. We're 1 week away from Alvin Kamara returning. Jamal Williams is trending towards not playing. Now, Jones last week comes in for Jamal Williams. Minimal yardage, but gets 2 touchdowns. The running back I'm intrigued by this week, and this is a stretch, maybe not season long, but if you're playing in a DFS tournament of some type, Kendra Miller will play this week for the New Orleans Saints. Then one of their early round draft picks, trending towards playing. He's been a full participant in practice all week after being out weeks 1 and week 2. He's priced at $4,300 on DraftKings. Now, I get it. Jones is there. Taysom Hill saw a ton of work running in the backfield. It's tough to trust the situation. That's why I won't use Kendra Miller in a season-long format, but I will have some fun with him throwing him in some DFS formats this week. Jones, by the way, is $4,500 on DraftKings as well. He's pretty low valued as well. And you got Taysom Hill floating around. The Green Bay Packers, and the reason I want to get a Saints running back somewhere in the mix here is because the Green Bay run defense is like just letting anybody run up and down the field. They are allowing 166.5 rushing yards per game. Let's acknowledge what that is. It's atrocious. Okay, they are allowing 28.7 in a PPR format, 28.7 fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. And if you're in that PPR format, they have allowed 15 receptions in 2 games, 7.5 receptions per game to opposing running backs. So even if Kendra Miller is just involved in the pass game out of the backfield in a PPR format, if he could walk away with 5 or 6 catches, you're in a plus situation this week at $4,300 on DraftKings. My second running back to be mindful of, Joshua Kelly of the Los Angeles Chargers. Terrific week 1 coming in for Austin Eckler. Not so great in week 2. Eckler's still not practicing. When you're not practicing at the end of the week, that means you're trending towards not playing. Keep an eye on the situation, but if Eckler's out, Josh Kelly is a must-start. Get him in your lineups across the board. He's 5,400 on DraftKings, averaging 9.5 fantasy points per game in that DK format. The Vikings are just as bad as the Packers in run defense. Minnesota is allowing 166 rushing yards per game. They allow 22.8 fantasy points per game in a PPR format to opposing running backs. Last week alone, and this we saw it happen in a primetime game, the Philadelphia Eagles ran up and down the field on that Minnesota defense. Minnesota allowed a total of 259 rushing yards to the Eagle ground attack, which was led, if you remember, by DeAndre Swift. So Joshua Kelly in a terrific spot with Eckler trending towards not playing. At the wide receiver position, Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons versus the Detroit Lions. Surprised how inexpensive he is on DraftKings, only listed at $5,000, averaging 9.4 points per game. Now remember, that 9.4 is a 0 game in week 1 and 18 fantasy point per game week 2, where he was targeted 7 times, 6 for 67, and a touchdown. Going against the Detroit Lion defense that's allowing 277 passing yards per game. They've already in 2 weeks allowed 3 wide receiver touchdowns and allowing just under 40 points per game to opposing wide receivers. Okay, they've allowed a total of 4 passing touchdowns on the year in 2 games, have the Detroit Lions secondary. This Atlanta-Detroit game could be surprisingly high scoring. Desmond Ridder found Drake London last week. Expect Drake London to continue to be involved and at a nice price at $5,000 for the week. My second wide receiver to add, and I'm completely in love with this rookie, I'll acknowledge it, but I'm going back to Jordan Addison of the Minnesota Vikings, who's already got 2 touchdowns in 2 games, yet he's still underpriced on DraftKings at $5,500. He's averaging 16.2 fantasy points per game, and I love that matchup of Minnesota against the Los Angeles Chargers. Light it up time. That Chargers defense can't stop you and I if we're playing with a Nerf football right now. The Chargers allow 356 passing yards per game. Kirk Cousins, light it up. He's already the top-ranked fantasy quarterback in the league, and he goes against that Charger defense this week. 356 passing yards a game. The Chargers are allowing an astounding 57.1 fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers, the most in the league. In 2 games, they've already allowed 4 passing touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. The Chargers defense is a mess. Minnesota's pass defense is clicking with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and heck, even KJ Osborne if you want to go down the sleeper list just a little bit more. And finally, my tight end sleeper and value play for week 3 of the fantasy football season. This one you might raise your eyebrows at, but Pat Fryman of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're right. Pat Fryman, who on the season has 2 catches for 5 yards and 1 touchdown. On the season, who has all of 5 targets. Okay, yet on DraftKings, he's a measly $3,600. And this is where I want to take advantage. I want to take advantage of a Raiders pass defense that is allowing 16.6 fantasy points to opposing tight ends. They can be exposed by a good tight end. Can the Las Vegas Raiders? Pat Frymuth should be featured by that Pittsburgh Steelers passing attack to exploit that matchup. On an average, the Las Vegas Raiders are allowing 8 receptions per game to opposing tight ends. If Pat Frymuth can even give you 6 or 7 receptions, give you 50 yards, you're on the plus side of 10 fantasy points if that's the floor you are looking for. So, to recap, my week 3 sleeper and value plays for the 2023 fantasy football season. At quarterback, CJ Stroud, Houston Texans. Running backs, Kendra Miller, New Orleans Saints, and Joshua Kelly, Los Angeles Chargers. At the wide receiver position, Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons and Jordan Addison of the Minnesota Vikings, and at tight end, Pat Fryman of the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, everybody, don't forget, like and subscribe right here to the RotoBaller YouTube channel. Give me a follow on Twitter at Aniano Fantasy, and we will see you next time right here on RotoBaller Radio.